All right, everyone, I am super excited to have a special guest with us today. It's a leader in the industry, it's a leader financially, it's someone that's created an extraordinary technology with us. We have the owner of Currents, which is a cash flowing technology to help people save more money, create more wealth. That's making huge impact on actual people's lives. And one of the big reasons I'm so excited to have Dave Mozeika with us today is because this technology is game changing when it comes to actually keeping the money you've created. Far too many people create massive amounts of income, but they don't keep any of it because of things like unconscious spending and a few other money leaks. But unconscious spending and not having a cash flow system in place is a massive culprit there. And so David is going to give us insight into why he created Currents, the power of Currents, and the impact it can have on your life, not only to free up cash, but to also give you the permission to start creating financial independence, start thinking about generational wealth, and start thinking much bigger than you are right now, because you have lots of dollars that you've created that are disappearing from your life. So thank you, David. I'm super excited to have you here, and welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me, Justin. Looking forward to sharing some insights around what we built and how we're helping people, and just grateful for the platform that you built here.
Yeah, super excited. So let's just start. Let's give our audience, what in the heck is Currents? Like, why
Yeah.
does it exist? What is it? Why, like, is it just another budgeting app? Is it like Mint? Is it helping you track your expenses? What is Currents?
Currents is about creating cash flow structure. Where it started. I've been a financial advisor for the last 22 years. I was always interested in cash flows. Always interested in why people weren't getting ahead, what were the challenges they were having financially, understanding that the things that they needed to implement in their financial plans, in their financial life, always required cash flow and really an understanding of their cash flow and confidence in their cash flow to allow them to make those choices to better their lives, not just immediately, but forever and on an ongoing basis. So, when we were scheduling, when we were working with clients, I had a conversation at one point with one of my mentors, and we were talking about cash flow and movements. And we understand, my background's in macroeconomics, so we understand that every choice that you make affects everything else in your life. And so every time we make a decision, there's like a ripple effect that takes place. So when cash flow is not right, it's actually impacting every area of your financial lives. So we were in this discussion in one of the study group sessions, and we were talking about how we would help try to create some strategy around getting people to save more money, but it always involved human effort, right? Like making sure that they had to take the time, adjust something in their lives to allow them to save more money, to then implement the things that they needed to make their lives work out. And then we came to this realization that, if we can create an environment where people are choosing how much they spend, where people are choosing how much money is leaving the asset side of the balance sheet, as opposed to having to take the manual effort and put it away and save money in the face of life and all the things that are going on. It's really difficult. So that's exactly what we did. And that's what Currents is we created a frictionless environment where people can make all their wealth management, wealth protection decisions before it's impacted in the way that they consume. So what we've done is actually reverse the direction of the cash flow, where most people make money and they take their money and their paycheck and they drop it straight into their checking account. The reality is that checking account is an expense account. It's where we pay our bills, we manage all of our life's expenses. It's where our lifestyle choices show up. It's where our fixed expenses show up. It's where Amazon shows up, right? And there's a lot of what we call financial gravity pulling on every dollar we make. And what we've done is say, rather than take your money and deposit it into the expense account, why don't we take the money and deposit it into the asset side of the balance sheet and then choose how much money gets absorbed by that area of your life financially? And in essence, that's what happens. And the default, that creates what we call unconscious savings, because the default is always to save money first. And the conscious behavior is on the spend, which creates unconscious savings. We can
Yeah,
dive into that much more detail if you want, but because I know there's a lot to unpack there for the audience, but we
yeah.
could dig into that.
I think that's really powerful because what I have noticed is there's all this marketing in place. Pay yourself first. Make sure you're keeping yourself the person. But my experience is people don't know how to do it. Like they're told that's what you should do, but how do you do that? Most people actually never implement it. They know that that's the action they need to take. The thing I love about Currents is this puts a structure and foundation in your life that causes you to pay yourself first and causes those dollars to go to you first. And then you decide how much leaves you into spending. So let's dive deeper into the unconscious and the methodology and the behavior around human budgeting and money that drives this as like, this is the solution for people.
And that's so true, right? Like the order of operations is the significance here, right? That's what happens. And when you change the behavior because you're choosing how much money leaves. Like the manual effort is the hard part. So if you have to if you manually choose to unwind your financial plan or unwind your savings or cash flow structure, you're less inclined to do it, and you actually have more awareness. But what we've done, and to what you were just saying before, is the default order of operations. Like we are pre-wired to spend money. And when the default order of operations is make money, send it to your checking account, live your life, and then save after the fact, right? What we've done is just created that and done it in the exact opposite order. And it really is that simple. And our clients are saving 33% of their after-tax income.
Right, which is extraordinary. The average American saves 5, 7, 10% right. Maybe. Yeah. And that's not creating financial independence. That's not creating any sort of wealth. 5 to 10% isn't even going to allow you to stop working at any point in your life for a sustained period of time. So,
yeah, the federal numbers suggest 4% of the gross income is what the national savings rate is.
Wow. Yeah, not even close to good enough. Yeah. One of the things that is really inspiring to me about this, the reason we love this so much is because we help people save taxes oftentimes. But in the normal default cash flow system, all that happens with the savings of taxes is they just dissipate into expenses and spending. They didn't actually save anything. They just transferred it from a tax expense into a lifestyle expense. But this structure actually will capture and help people actually transform their saved taxes, any dollar they save anywhere, into an actual asset and into something that will become bigger for them. So it's not just the cash flow you make from your business or from new cash, it's on saved dollars as well, which is in our mind almost as impactful as the new dollar that's created.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So give our audience a little bit deeper of a feel into what is this, how does this work? They're downloading an app. What is the structure? How does this actually take place in their lives versus the big picture? Let's get a little bit micro into, I want this. What does this start to look like for me?
Great. Let me just show something. So if I could share my screen, would that be okay?
Yeah. So if you see that next to the screen share on the bottom there, do you have access to that?
Okay, you should see my screen right now.
Yes.
So the common pattern, as we said earlier, what happens is people are earning money, right? That money comes in. And the default, actually, let me take a step back if we can. Here's what happens. We have earned income. And that earned income, our paychecks, salary bonuses, all those earnings are taxed at the highest possible rate, right? It could be as high as 37% federally in this current climate. Now, what happens is every time we make a dollar, right? Every time we have earned income, what happens is we have this intense amount of gravity pulling on every dollar that we make, right? This happens for everybody. This is, it's just the world in which we live in. Like we're immediately partners with the federal government, right? They take their share right off the top. We pay Social Security taxes and maybe state and local taxes, depending upon where you are. So there's this sort of confiscation that takes place immediately. And then if we look at a typical wage earner's paycheck, the next line items on their pay stub would have things like voluntary benefits that they're paying for, health insurance they may be paying for, and then the other line item, the big line item, is contributions to the retirement plan, which is not a bad thing. It's a great place to accumulate wealth. It just may not be the best first place for your savings, depending upon what else is going on in your life. But what happens is, because you can't access those funds in the retirement plan, until you're 59 and a half, it puts pressure on your cash flow. It actually creates a ripple effect down the line for other choices, right? And again, not that it's a bad place, because I certainly contribute to my 401k, but again, the order in which we do things, I think, is extremely important. And then after that, then we get to bring money home, and we have to navigate life through our fixed expenses, our lifestyle variable expenses, and some other discretionary expenses. And then the question is that I ask people often is like, how much money is left over? Like, what is actually your savings rate? And people often struggle to answer that question. And, it's because there's really no structure, right? It's kind of like we make money, we spend it, and then we save after the fact if we have the diligence or the discipline to do so.
Which is honestly quite funny when you think about business owners specifically. Business owners have systems all over the place in their business, but when it comes to personal cash flow, they don't have a system for it. They just let it happen by default. And if they let things happen by default in their business, things would fall apart. But they don't recognize they need the same system on their personal cash flow.
Right. And we need our dollars to do more than one job too, right? Like when you integrate, and the beautiful thing about Currents, which we'll get into, it integrates every asset, every cash flow engine, every income stream that you have to create the maximum amount of power, the maximum amount of control. Now, when I ask people, what is your savings rate? Again, they struggle to answer the question because the absence of structure. What we'd really want to do is create an environment where we're creating income, additional income above and beyond what we can earn through manual labor. And if you do it right, you can actually create income streams that are taxed as low as 15%, 10%, or even zero.
Right.
And there's a whole bunch of other ways that we can allocate our extra resources to create these cash flows. So as an example, you just mentioned a business owner. Business owners make money. They get to spend it first, invest in themselves first, and then pay taxes on what's left. It's very different than being an employee, where as an employee, you make money and you have to pay tax on the gross amount and then enjoy what's left. We have many of our users invest in real estate. That's a pretty poor drawing of a house, but let's say that's the house, right? When you factor in, and if you're expert in it, you can take advantage of depreciation deductions, 1031 tax exchanges, mortgage interest deductions, right? It wouldn't be uncommon for a real estate investor to produce cash flow or income on average taxed as low as 10% or even less.
Right.
We could be strategic and create a structured portfolio for our users. And what's interesting about that is you can take advantage of qualified dividends or even long-term capital gains if you're managing for total return and create cash flows taxed as low as 15%. In this climate, it may be appropriate for you to have municipal bonds as an example. Municipal bonds produces interest income taxed at 0%. And another, if it's appropriate for you, is to use life insurance as an asset class, because life insurance produces dividend income also taxed at 0%. So the idea or the environment we want to create is to capture whatever we can and begin to implement some of these engines that produce income above and beyond what we can earn through manual labor and tax more efficiently than the money we earn through our paycheck. And then what happens is we just implement the engines that are appropriate for you. And then what happens is those cash flows then we can use to further alleviate the pressure on your paycheck. And then there's just more money left over. And then what happens is you create another turn on the money, right? And what happens is when there's extra money, then you can actually either add to the engines you have in place or begin to add even additional ones and then create another turn. It's like taking your car from first gear to second gear, third gear, and so on. Even though you're still driving it with the same RPMs, you can actually take your vehicle and create sort of this recycling motion of using money over and over again.
I really like this.
That's the environment that people want.
Yeah, the example, the analogy I like to use is the pulley. If you have one pulley, you're only getting you pull down with the same amount of force. But if you have multiple pulleys all working together, you can pull at the same amount of force, but the output is so much greater than it was. It can be 5, 10 times bigger than it ever was before.
Yeah, totally. I use the example of simple versus compound machines, right? So every financial product in a vacuum by itself is really a simple machine. They do one job. But when you can coordinate and integrate them into a cohesive strategy, you can actually create that multiplication of output. You know,
Right. Absolutely.
you know. Like I think the definition of a compound machine is that one or more simple machines working together to create a greater mechanical output is actually how it's defined.
Cool.
So
That's exactly what's happening. So awesome.
yeah, so let me share with you why this doesn't happen automatically, right? Like if this is the environment you want, the question is why does it not happen automatically? And what I found and is here's why. And this was myself at one time, and everybody that I meet for the first time, typically the common pattern of their cash flow is take money, send it straight to their checking account, right? Where people pay their bills, live their lives, right? Again, Netflix, Amazon, everything's a subscription these days, right? So you kind of lose track. And then it takes manual effort at the end of the month, if you wanted to move money over into a savings account. But if you're anything like me, or anything like most people, most families, like life tends to happen when you least expect it. And then if you had some money in a savings account, life gets in the way. We tend to take that savings and move it back to the checking account and consume it. And this is what we call the treadmill, right? And here's the problem. In the absence of structure, you're taking every new dollar in your life, every new inflow that's showing up in your life, and you're dropping it into an expense account designed for you to spend. What happens is your consumption, because the account that you consume out of is receiving all the income, your consumption will always at some level be correlated to how much money you make. So what we found over time is as incomes rise, the consumption runs in parallel.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's always some level of correlation. Even if you're a great saver, you have to think about all the things that could happen in life that can get you off track from being a great saver. Right? Like if I'm making $100,000 a year and then I get a 4% cost of living raise, right? That might only show up with like $100 or so net of taxes in each paycheck. Like that gets absorbed and lost in life very easily. And that's why we see what happens in time is that as incomes rise, what happens is the consumption runs in parallel.
Yep.
So
I really like the James Clear quote where he says, "You do not rise to the level of your goals; you fall to the level of your systems." Most people are just falling into their default system, which is this. It just is. We're just going to spend more money over time, and even if people feel like they're great savers, it doesn't matter because they don't have a system around it, and they're just going to keep. They're going to unconsciously expenses rise right along with it. It's just it happens.
Yeah, you never get to second gear or third gear or fourth gear. Right, and it's not everyone's fault. Right, it's just the world in which we live in, right? And this is why when we started messing around with this, we were doing this manually with our clients, and it was like a lot of drawings like this. And what happened was we finally realized that this is extremely powerful. Like the results that we were having, we needed to make it available to all. We needed to create technology and a destination for people to make it available. So here's what Currents does. Basically, we open up a cash flow reservoir account, which, by the way, is the client's account, right? And it's FDIC insured, up to $2.5 million, by the way. You get mobile access because we have a mobile app that you can access and manage all your cash flows. No different than any other financial account, but you get a current strategist to be your coach and to be your guide along with you. And what we do is we take a look at all the cash flow generating items that you have, right? So this could be like your paycheck. Maybe you're getting Social Security. Maybe you're getting, interest income off of some asset. And what happens is you connect your reservoir to all the things that produce income in your life. Simultaneously, you connect to the checking account where you pay your bills, and you just figure out how much money do I need to live the life, how much money needs to show up in my checking account to live the life that I'm currently living, right? So let's, say that number is, X dollars. Let's say it's $5,000. Could be 10,000, 20, it's different. Everyone's life is different. So what happens is now you arrange to have all of your income go to your reservoir, which is a savings instrument that's earning interest. And you arrange to have $5,000 monthly in whatever pace you want to show up in your checking account. It's all done automated cash flows. What happens is this reservoir is automatically going to capture any extra dollar, the difference between what's coming into your life and what's going out. It automatically captures it without any human effort or intervention on your part. So let me just give you some simple math. Let's say that this is you and you save $1,000 a month. So let's say you made $6,000 after tax. What most people are doing is sending that to the checking account and then trying to save $1,000 a month. Right? What we're doing is saying, rather than do that, let's send your $6,000 to your reservoir and then send $5,000 to your checking account, which means this automatically captures the extra $1,000. But the beautiful thing is, unless you change your consumption, as your income will rise, but your consumption will stay the same unless you consciously choose to increase it. And therefore, you end up saving all the difference between the new money coming in and the old money going out. So if you were never a good saver, or you felt like you were on the treadmill, what will happen is you'll grow into the best version of yourself. Like it's just going to happen because you're going to automatically capture every future increase in income to go into savings. And then you and your advisor, you just decide where should that surplus money go. So that's how our current strategists live with their clients, is that every time there's an extra dollar, Justin, if you were my client and I was your strategist, I would say, hey, Justin, we have extra cash, because we would set like the target balance in there. So every time there's extra money, you and I would have a conversation that sounds like, Justin, do you want to spend this money, or would you like to create another cash flow engine? And you might say, you know what, let's create another engine. And what's going to happen is that's going to produce income like we described before, and that's just going to feed the reservoir even faster. And now we're in second gear, and the surplus happens faster. And then you and I are going to have another conversation, and it's going to sound like, we have extra money. Should we spend it, or should we create another engine? And you'll probably create another engine. And then now the surplus happens faster. Now we're in third gear, and we're just going to do this over and over and over again. And that's how we work with our clients. And that's why their savings rates have exploded.
I really, this is so powerful, because people need the permission. People need the permission to get to that level. And the app and the function, the structurality of the app is giving them that permission to actually reach the levels that they want to reach, but they haven't had the pathway or the identity to actually get there.
Yeah.
Can you go back to something you said about this, just so I want to make sure people understand this? This reservoir is an actual bank account. And
Yes.
and you mentioned something, it's an FDIC insured, and you set up to 2.5 million. Can you expound on that? Because I often get like questions around like, how much is this insured to? Like, how safe is it? Can you dive a little bit deeper into that and let people know that this is just dive into what it is?
So the Currents reservoir it really is the control panel, right? It gives you the ability to connect and give every dollar a job or a direction of where to go. So it's connected to everything in your life. That's what we have created with the technology. But the money is in your cash flow reservoir account, which is really an interest-bearing checking account with our partner at Thread Bank. And what they do is they partner into a network where if you exceed the traditional $250,000 FDIC limit, what they do is have partner banks that they allow that the monies or any excess monies automatically get deposited behind the scenes into other banks so they can aggregate the FDIC limits. You can go to Fred Bank and find out more information on it. There's a FAQ on it, but it's common practice in the wealth management space. Pretty much every financial institution has access to that program.
Okay. I really appreciate that because I get that question way more than I ever thought I would around it. So thank you for helping clarify that. So really appreciate the detail and the level you went into this. Is there anything that we haven't talked about today that you think would be powerful? Is there a client story? You've already mentioned that most people save 33% of their income. Is there something that we haven't talked about that's like, this needs to be known so people understand the power of this?
I think, my favorite quote is Da Vinci, is simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. And what's amazing is it really is that simple. It's just, putting yourself on the right side of gravity, giving you the maximum amount of control. And, we just created the structure so that people could, it's turnkey, right? You could just show up and grab it. I mean, we have incredible success stories. We had a strategist on our national training yesterday where he was talking about one of his clients who he had met and, had a nice income at $150,000 and set his lifestyle, his baseline spending based upon that life he was living, and incredible promotions in his career, and now he's making multiple seven figures, and he's still living the life of what he was as when he was making $150,000. So we have this one client that just because his income rose, his spending didn't automatically rise with it. Now he did increase his lifestyle slightly, but he did it by choice, by his control. I have another client that I recently been working with that we literally opened up the Currents Reservoir with $10 and has never been able to save a dime. And, typical American family, married with two children, and, just life getting in the way. And in the last year, we saved $93,000 just because they had more control. And we made some adjustments along the way to what their lifestyle costs are, which are fine. We actually increased it, and they have never been in more control. And, they've been able to see things as possibilities that didn't exist for them in the past, mainly
Right.
because they have free cash flow. Now, free cash flow is the secret, right? If you can actually create free cash flow, that's what gives you the ability to implement the things that you want or live the life you want, or both.
Yeah. It's the possibility that's opened up to you that was blocked before because you didn't have the free cash flow. So it never was even in the realm of something you could reach. Now it's there for you.
Yeah. And what
So
you said, I mean, like, listen, we have great technology, right? The system is great, but Currents really is a structural solution that's assisted with technology. It's not like one of these budgeting apps that's just going to tell you how much money you spent last month to make you feel bad about yourself, right?
right.
This is about creating structure and just living into it. You will live into your maximum potential automatically. Even if you
Right.
never invest a dollar, your savings will increase over time.
I really also like the accountability piece. The strategist comes with the app. Like you can't just access the app without the strategist. You have to have the pairing of both because the
Mm-hmm.
strategist will help reinforce, help be the accountability partner, help give you solutions for more cash flow engines. They're a part of this. It's not just you trying to do it alone and trying to figure it out. You have help and support.
100%. And we built it that way. We believe in human advice. We believe in human interactions and the value that a human advisor brings. And unfortunately, a lot of the technology that's out there is they're trying to eliminate the human advisor, and it's the hugest mistake because there's so many qualitative things that cannot be figured out from AI, so to
Right.
speak, right? And you need to have that rapport, that relationship, that accountability, like you said, so because you're on a journey together, and our mission is to empower the human advisor to allow everyone to achieve financial freedom faster. That's our mission.
Cool. What's your big vision? So you've established this. This is up and running. You have advisors. You have strategists. You have people experiencing success. Where do you see this in 5, 10 years going forward?
You know, the community never stops, sort of amazing me. And as we start to hear ongoing success stories, and not just from advisors, but from users, end users, and their clients as well. It's amazing, because I didn't set out to be in the technology business, right? Um, but having the opportunity to collaborate with folks like yourself and bring this community and build this community, the speed of innovation is happening so much. And you know, I think if I try to predict where I'm going to be in 5 years, I'm afraid I'll fall short of what's possible.
Right.
So what we do is we live in the constant state of innovation. We live constantly improving the product. We have another release coming out in about 2 weeks that's going to totally dramatically improve the onboarding process. So we are moving at lightning speeds. With some of this innovation, and the more people that get involved, we have over 10,000 end users using the system. There's approximately 1,000 strategists on the platform. And, the more people that get involved, that just speeds up the innovation because we get so much feedback, and our mission is just to keep building the most perfect, cash flow management system.
Cool. Really love it. So if someone wants this, they're hearing this, I want Currents, how do they go about doing that?
Yeah. So you can only get Currents through a Currents strategist. And for those of you in this audience, it would be important for them to reach out to you, Justin, because you and your firm are registered current strategists, and you can onboard them very simply with an invite that you can send from your side of the system.
Awesome.
So
Yeah,
you have to go through a current strategist, and Justin and team are expert in currents.
Okay. Awesome. Last thing before you go, what is just one piece of advice you would give someone once they have reached this level of where they're creating the surplus and they have the system running? What do you invite them to do when it comes to thinking bigger and going to the next gear? What's your advice to that person that's trying to go to the next level?
So from a financial perspective, or like what
It
instruments
could
they
just
want to
be
leverage?
whatever you feel is the best piece for them.
I think it's important to lean into your relationship with your strategist, because they're going to help guide you as to what's possible. They're going to help learn more about you and what you want to accomplish individually. I think it's amazing when you get involved, right? And you get onboarded and you start to see control. What we found is a true behavioral shift in people and how they interact with their own finances, right? So you'll start to see and fall in love with your savings rate, your free cash flow that you're creating. And it's kind of like you don't really see, there's opportunity everywhere, but you never see it unless you're set up to see it.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's what happens is the environment just allows for new opportunities to show up. And I would say everyone's different. So it's really hard to answer that question
Right.
because everyone has different aspirations and, different goals and different family dynamics. But at the end of the day, it's work with your strategies. And I think where a lot of the success is happening is the speed of transaction, the speed of choices is speeding up. And,
Right.
and that's why people are getting successful.
I really, really appreciate what you said there, because you said people don't realize the possibility that's around them, the opportunities, because they've never had it. But now that they have it, all of a sudden their eyes become open to, like, I can go over here. I can make a cash flow engine here. I have this opportunity to start a new business, to do this. It all opens up to them. And I think that's what I want people to realize is that as you take this step forward, you're going to be so shocked at how many opportunities just start showing up all over the place for you.
Yeah. I'll give you another example. We had a client, the same client I was explaining to you, that saved $90-something thousand in their first year. They never thought his family, his parents live overseas. He's got 2 young kids. He never thought it's possible. Now what we've done is set up a sinking fund for a travel budget. So all we do is feed that travel account, and now he has the money, guaranteed to have the money to make sure he brings his family to go see their grandparents every single year from this point forward. So it doesn't have to be a financial decision. It's all about quality life.
Right. I love that. Well, David, I really appreciate the time you spent today, the thoroughness you went through, the power of this app. I am grateful that you just didn't stop with your own clients, but you went a step deeper and created technology so that more people could access this. Because for me personally, just on the personal level, I use Currents on my own, and the impact on my savings and the ability to capture the income that I have has been dramatic. Like, I'm saving way more money than I've ever saved in my life before. And it's all available to me. Like, I would have spent it. I guarantee I would have spent it otherwise. And I'm not a big spender, but unconscious spending happens to big spenders and non-big spenders alike. And I know that over time, it would have just dissipated into whatever came up, a new couch, a random thing. But I don't spend it now. And now I can create those cash flow engines, and it's setting me free, and I'm seeing those possibilities. So I can speak as a user that this works for people, and it makes a massive impact faster than you ever thought it could.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Everyone have a great day. Thanks.